Introduction. From my head to yours. It took me the better part of 40 years, but I finally developed a sense of vulnerability after having 3 kids in quick succession, followed closely by an eye injury that required multiple surgeries and still left me functionally blind in one eye. I am a physiotherapist that is hardwired to do, but I have been forced to stop and learn numerous times due to random life events that laid me up for extended periods of time. My job inserts me into people's lives during their stop and learn moments. No one plans on getting in a car accident or hurting his or her back getting out of bed in the morning. But it happens to the best of us, and most of us need a little help trying to figure out how to move forward on the other side of an injury or an obstacle. What you bring into the obstacle impacts how you get around the obstacle in terms of both your physical robustness and the amount of mental baggage or wisdom you have developed. Trauma is a double-edged sword. It will pick at the weaknesses of both your brain and your body, but it is also the best motivation to stop and learn about yourself. The goal here is to help you become more anti-fragile by learning how to look at your body more objectively and turn traumas into physical and mental wisdom. Anti-fragile is a term developed by author Nassim Taleb in his book of the same name, released in 2014, and it refers to things that gain traction, power, and strength from disorder. Taleb then places these on a spectrum of fragile, robust, anti-fragile, and thoroughly describes how complex systems are made stronger by random events. The human body is the definition of a complex system, but to most people it is a vehicle to walk their head around. As humans, our capacity to think is both our greatest asset and our biggest weakness. We have created elaborate societies and amazing technologies, but they both tend to stress the hell out of the average person and unknowingly lead him or her into a series of unhealthy behaviors that take a physical and mental toll on his or her body. Individuals living in a broader society are exposed to countless random events. So why do some people thrive and others get chewed up and spit out by the very infrastructure available to help them? This book is my answer to that question, and my hope is that it will shift you further towards thriving and help protect you from yourself. The pandemic put a lot of people outside of their comfort zones. It took away the option of using exercise as a stress outlet for an extended period of time. It forced people to spend more time with their families than they were used to. It made people work from home and question where and why they were doing what they were doing. It brought people into physiotherapy that were lost and trying to figure out why they were so uncomfortable in their bodies without any history of a physical injury. I could feel and treat the physical tensions that were causing my clients problems, but I also needed to help them understand how existential threats, family dynamics, and work stresses were creating those tensions. Emotions are more of a physical than a cognitive experience, but many people have a hard time interpreting the physical manifestations of stress, anxiety, fear, and loneliness. We are all struggling to keep up with the fast pace of change and are constantly being knocked out of our comfort zones by technology, politics, and climate issues that we don't have any control over. Our brains are busy and our bodies are stressed. A series of good explanations and some familiar stories will hopefully help you make sense of how you feel inside and outside of your body. In my experience, people learn the most from stories and pictures, but healthcare systems tend to be full of data and confusing words, which immediately create a stressful environment for many individuals seeking help. As a physiotherapist, I am part of people's stories every day, and have learned a lot about human nature as it relates to injury and healing, mental health, and overall well-being. I have integrated some of these stories into the chapters of this book, along with a series of illustrations that make the complex nature of the body simple to understand. My first book, Why Things Hurt: Life Lessons from an Injury-Prone Physical Therapist, was a collection of stories I used daily to explain concepts to my clients. This book builds on those ideas and presents a larger, clearer view of how both individuals and society can help themselves more effectively address physical and mental health. In today's world, it is increasingly important to understand the source of your information. I want to clearly state that this book is what I believe to be true based on my education and experience. It is not based on the conclusions of researchers with randomized controlled trials. It is based on the empathetic reasoning of a critically thinking clinician with 2 university degrees and 20 years of experience in the middle of other people's traumas. I hope that listening to this book helps you realize that people, including yourself, may be struggling in ways that you don't understand, so it is best practice to be kind and empathetic to those around you. Following is a sample of some of the experiences I've had that shape the lens I see the world through. Some of my experiences. I have seen 2 men in their late 40s wake up in hospital beds after suffering a stroke in different parts of their brains. I was the one to sit them up and try to get them moving again every day for the first 6 weeks of their new life, battling to communicate and learning to use one whole side of their bodies again. I have worked backstage at Cirque du Soleil helping traveling acrobats and gymnasts battling nagging injuries because the show must go on. In the fall of 2011, my wife had our 3rd child in 3 years, my business partner was septic in the hospital, we just completed the renovations to move our clinic, and my receptionist quit, all within weeks of each other. It was my job to hold it all together. I had the opportunity to help a stoic 93-year-old lady keep moving with a series of 30-minute visits over several years, an experience that taught me about resilience, perspective, and how closely functional mobility equates to happiness in the latter years of life. I had the privilege to be part of 2 fresh cadaver dissections of donors that had died within the week and never been frozen or preserved. I have held a heart inside the body, pulled on nerves in the abdomen and seen them move in the ankle, touched a brain, and cut through the layers of scar tissue from abdominal surgeries to see what was underneath. I learned the skill of IMS dry needling, intramuscular stimulation, from Dr. Chan Gun near the end of his career in 2008. I continue to incorporate and refine it as a primary treatment for resistant pain issues. I have a laundry list of personal injuries that include concussions, dislocations, fractures, infections, and a serious eye injury, but I still work full-time, coach kids' sports, and play hockey with a compromised, aging body. I have both succeeded and failed at trying to help people with various degrees of mental health challenges and learned from every experience. I have seen a friend in his mid-20s get trapped in his own body by ALS and choose to end his life after being stuck in an ICU bed, unable to hold up his own head. I have relearned my opinions on the nature versus nurture debate while trying to parent our 3 strong-willed children. My perspective comes from the sandwiched position of having teenage children on one side and my own aging parents on the other. I am the co-owner of Envision Physiotherapy in Vancouver, Canada, and continue to work clinically full-time in a multidisciplinary environment. I have helped people that have been hit by cars, fallen off roofs, come back from war, been sexually assaulted, had multiple babies, developed Parkinson's, retired from professional sports, won Olympic medals, insidiously developed chronic pain, and have simply gotten old, stiff, and sore. I can confidently say it is the emotional impact of trauma that drives a person's journey through the physical experience. Please listen to this book with an open mind and the understanding that you are the product of everything that you have experienced up to this very moment. Your genetics, your parents, your childhood, your education, your friends, and your traumas have all influenced how you feel and how you think. The goal of this book is to give you the knowledge of how your body actually works, more objectively process the role your past has on your present, and enable you to confidently control how experiences influence you moving forward.